is dead. R.I.P. D.I.C. Okay, D.I.C. Yeah. R.I.P. D.I.C. Okay, Dick Cheney, 84 years old, former Vice President of the United States of America. Former Secretary of Defense back before he was the Secretary of War. Dead. Former Chief of Staff for Gerald Ford. Dick Cheney passed away. I think it was pneumonia. I don't know what he was 84. So when it's 84, you know, you could when you're 84, like a hangnail could kill. That's the thing that happens. Like the older you get, the more feeble you are. So I think past 80, and a lot of people at like past 80s are doing great. Most of them are not, and they're still in Congress, which is really kind of weird. I don't understand. But Dick Cheney, R.I.P. D.I.C.K. Dick Cheney, father of Liz, has passed to the great beyond. And we're not sure where he is now. There's debate going on currently as to where his eternal resting place will be. What this is, Mark K. Saves the Republic. Thank you so much for being here today. Made a really busy day today. Not only do we have the whole Dick Cheney scenario where, you know, he passed away and people have been talking about him and mourning him, and the Democrats, this is the weirdest, I have to tell you, this is the weirdest day in the history of my life because Democrats are mourning Dick Cheney. Marjorie Taylor Greene was on The View getting along with all the crazy women there. They were very complimentary of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Donald Trump is endorsing a really bad Democrat over a somewhat decent Republican. And on top of all that, we're waiting for a White House press briefing on what could be, like I said, the most bizarre day in the history of days. We'll start with Dick Cheney while we wait for Caroline Levitt. This happened earlier. This was what I woke up to today. Democrat over a somewhat decent Republican.
This is a Fox
and on
News
top
alert.
of all that, we're waiting for a White House press briefing on what could be, like I said, the most bizarre day in the history of days. We'll start with Dick Cheney while we wait for Caroline Levitt. This happened earlier. This was what I woke up to today. Democrat over a somewhat decent Republican. And on top of all that, we're waiting for a White House press briefing on what could be, like I said, the most bizarre day in the history of days. We'll start with Dick Cheney while we wait for Caroline Levitt. This happened earlier. This was what I woke up to. Democrat over a somewhat decent Republican. And on top of all that, we're waiting for a White House press briefing on what could be, like I said, the most bizarre day in the history of days. We'll start with Dick Cheney while we wait for Caroline Levitt. This happened earlier. This was what I woke up to. Democrat over a somewhat decent Republican.
As he passed, the former vice president died due to complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. For decades, Dick Cheney served our nation, including as White House Chief of Staff, Wyoming's Congressman, Secretary of Defense, and Vice President of the United States. Dick Cheney was a great and good man who taught his children and grandchildren to love our country and to live lives of courage, honor, love, kindness, and fly fishing. We are grateful beyond measure for all Dick Cheney did for our country, and we are blessed beyond measure to have loved and been loved by this noble giant of a man.
Yeah, and also Dick Cheney made famous for a couple of reasons. After 9/11, a lot of people thought he was just running the White House. He also shot a guy in the face. I don't know if you remember that. He was with one of his lawyer friends, and they were quail hunting. And Dick Cheney took out a shotgun and just, bam! Right. I guess he was aiming at a quail, and apparently the guy. What happened was he was aiming at the quail. I don't know how this happens. I've never been quail hunting because I hunt. I don't like to hunt tiny little birds. I like to hunt. I don't actually really hunt anything. I hunt a great bargain. That's what I'm a bargain hunter. No, but I mean, I would not that I wouldn't shoot anything. It's just that I don't have the time. But he was quail hunting. He goes up to shoot a quail, and the guy jumps in front of the shotgun and gets peppered in the face and the abdomen area and the neck. He was 78 years old. Luckily, he survived somehow, and he later said it was an accident. Again, I don't know. I thought when you were quail hunting, and I thought you pointed up to the quail. Isn't that the thing? Like when you're quail, aren't they birds, right? It's like duck hunting, wah, 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 boom. Because again, I watched a lot of Duck Dynasty. Their guns were always pointed in the air. I don't know how it is with quail. Maybe you're shooting 5 feet straight ahead. Doesn't matter. That made him, by the way, the second vice president to shoot a guy after after Aaron Burr. Luckily, he didn't have the same. End to his involvement as Aaron Burr did with Alexander Hamilton. But Dick Cheney also, in his later years, sided with his daughter Liz Cheney against President Donald Trump. And he became one of these anti-Trump, never Trump types from the Republican Party. Really, the division between the old school Republican Party and the current Donald Trump MAGA Republican Party. It started with George W. Bush. It started with, Laura Bush. The two of the Bushes came out and said, we're not going to support President Donald Trump. And then Liz Cheney came out and said, I'm not supporting Donald Trump, even though, everybody in my district voted for Donald Trump, and she stabbed him in the back. She voted twice. Two times she voted to get rid of him in the impeachment process. She sat on the January 6th committee with Nancy Pelosi, even though Kevin McCarthy, who was the Speaker of the House at the time, said, don't do it. Just don't do it. No Republicans should sit on this committee. And she was like, screw that. I'm going to do it because I hate Donald Trump just that much. And she even enlisted her father, Dick, into cutting an ad against President Donald Trump in the last election.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has
unfortunately, that's so sad. Unfortunately, none of that actually happened. None of that. Donald Trump got right back into the Oval Office. He redecorated it beautifully, and he's been running the country from there for the last 10 months. So look, that's where we are today. That Dick Cheney passed away, and it is very sad. Ted Cruz was on Fox News talking a little bit about
Senator Ted Cruz joins us now. Senator, I know you worked on that campaign. You watched that bond come together with the governor of Texas and the former Secretary of Defense. What did you see?
Well, Dick Cheney was an extraordinary public servant. You're right. President George W. Bush relied on Dick Cheney for virtually everything. He trusted him deeply. And I got to say, Dick Cheney was someone who, at 34 years old, he was chief of staff to President Gerald Ford. He became Secretary of Defense under President Bush 41, and then, of course, Vice President under Bush 43. He was a man who was serious. He was a man who was dedicated to keeping this country safe. And he was vice president when 9/11 happened. And the seriousness with which he took that America would defeat radical Islamic terrorists was extraordinary. He was up early every morning, 4 or 5 a.m. every morning, and working diligently to keep Americans safe. There are Americans who are alive today because of just how vigorously he pursued our enemies. And my condolences, my prayers are with the entire Cheney family, who are losing their patriarch and losing a public servant who made a real difference.
And, a lot of that is true. After 9/11, George W. Bush looked to Dick Cheney as somebody with a lot of experience, both as the, former Secretary of Defense, as a fixture in Washington, D.C., somebody who worked for, Halliburton and had a lot of experience with that sort of thing. And so he did kind of, as a lot of people have decided, or a lot of people have reported, take the helm. And there's been some question as to whether or not George W. Bush even made decisions during the second half of his presidency, and kind of ceded the power, whether he knew it or not, to Dick Cheney, who ruled with an iron fist. And then, of course, Dick Cheney choosing not to run for president after his 8 years in office with G-Dubs. And I think that was telling for a lot of reasons. Number one, there were health issues. Number two, I don't think that he had the popularity to beat Barack Obama. I mean, clearly neither did John McCain. So, there was all that going on. So he decided to opt out of public life until, of course, his daughter turned her ire on Donald Trump, and then forced him to re-enter the political arena. I think after he'd been long gone, he was done with it, man. He was done. He was like, I'm done with all you people. And she every time I try to get out, they pull me back in. And that was what Dick Cheney was doing. Now, Dick Cheney also it was really interesting because he was vice president when Nancy Pelosi was the Speaker of the House, and they had some back and forth, tiffs as well. But at the end of the day, Liz Cheney, his daughter, and Nancy Pelosi became super buds. So really interesting political climate. When you talk about the entire Cheney family, it really is really wild. But I think, one of the best things he did was protect us from radical Islamic terror after 9/11. Speaking of radical Islamic terror, Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, they are vying for the top spot in the New York mayoral race, which is happening right now. And this is this is the big race to watch. There's a lot of races we're watching. Of course, New Jersey governor, Virginia governor, which is very, we got Spanberger versus Winsome Sears. That's something we're watching. We're watching that Jay Jones attorney general race, which because he said he wanted his opponent's children killed, is now like of national importance. There's a race in Minnesota we're watching. There's a lot of races that we're watching, but the Zohran Mamdani race in New York City is one of the big races because he is hands down a communist to the core. He's about as red as they come. And he was on, I want to say it was, I don't know, MSN. It's one of those, they're all like the same. And he was talking about how he was asked about how he's going to pay for all this free stuff he wants to give out, which, communists never think about how they're going to pay for stuff. They're just like, we're just going to do all this stuff. And then somebody goes, you got a plan to pay for that? He goes, Elon Musk.
Living here is top of everyone's mind. It has gotten obscenely expensive to live here, to do anything here. So you're proposing free grocery stores, free buses, $30 minimum wage, all of which sounds incredible.
Cheaper groceries, not free groceries.
Excuse me, cheaper groceries. But what people want to know is, great, I would love all those things. Yeah, how do you pay for it? Who's going to end up footing the bill for those programs?
So I'll answer that question by first explaining some of the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has received. Elon Musk's endorsement is one of the most expensive endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has ever gotten because it cost him and the state of New York $959 million in tax breaks that he gave Elon Musk years ago when he was the governor of this state. That's actually more money than it would cost to make every bus free in New York City. So I've said clearly that I believe we should tax the top 1% an additional 2%, that's New Yorkers making $1 million or more a year, and have the most profitable corporations pay the same tax rate they do at the top tier in New Jersey, what they would actually pay here in New York. These things together would pay for the entirety of our economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city. Because as you've said, the endorsements that Andrew Cuomo has got, and this morning he started it by going on Fox and Friends, we're talking about Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Stephen Miller. These are the architects in many ways of the crisis of authoritarianism that New Yorkers are facing. And Andrew Cuomo is so unwilling to tax Donald Trump's billionaire donors because he knows those are the same ones whose
Yeah, he doesn't want to tax the billionaire donors because he doesn't want them leaving New York City. That's the rule. That's the first rule of communism that you always forget. If you attack the people with money, they take their money elsewhere. And being a Floridian, I'm all excited for Elon Musk to start bringing his agenda to Florida. I don't know why he hasn't yet either. I don't know why he's out there in New York City. Anyway, he should be in Texas. He should be in Florida. I know he's got some stuff going on in Tennessee, but leave all the blue states alone. Just extricate yourself. I guarantee that if Elon Musk brought billions of dollars here to the state of Florida, and I know he already does, there's a lot of the space program here, but bring all of it. Close up shop. San Francisco, wherever you happen to be, just bring it to Miami, bring it to Tampa, bring it to Jacksonville for all we care. I mean, there's tons of space. There's tons of talent here, and there's lots of sunshine. We are the Sunshine State, as a matter of fact. Plus freedom. You can carry your gun on your hip now because we have constitutional carry in the free state of Florida. So that's another great reason. But that's what Zohran Mamdani's doing. He's blaming Elon Musk for getting tax breaks so that he'll bring jobs to New York City. If Elon Musk didn't have those tax breaks, he wouldn't bring the jobs to New York City. And there would be fewer people in New York working. Zohran Mamdani always thinks that you can just tax the rich and that they're going to take it. They didn't get rich by throwing their money away. They didn't get rich by not problem solving. They didn't get rich by figuring out, this is really expensive. How can I cut costs? One of the reasons why rich people are rich is because they do more with less. And if you start taxing them more, they're going to figure out pretty quickly a way to cut costs. And there are hundreds of other cities and 49 other states in the country that are more than happy to help them cut those costs in exchange for the economic boon that comes with, inviting them into their state. Now, the other thing that's going on right now is there's some bomb threats in New York City and New Jersey at polling places. Apparently, people are calling in bomb threats. We don't know if they're real or fake. So far, there have been no bombs that have been detonated that I know of. Polling locations in New York City and New Jersey received threats on Election Day. Bomb threats targeted several New Jersey locations, while in Manhattan, the NYPD The NYPD, by the way, which Zoran Mamdani wants to defund, and federal authorities investigated what police sources describe as an elaborate swatting attempt targeting 3 polling sites. Polling locations in Washington Heights, the West Village, and Midtown received messages through the New York City Board of Elections email system, which contained threats of a terroristic nature. There haven't been any disruptions to voting in New York City as a result. Now, Zoran Mamdani was asked about these bomb threats, and as you can imagine, instead of, blaming himself or blaming the current mayor or blaming, communism or blaming the fact that the left is a violent bunch of heathens who looks to destroy their political operation in any way, shape, or form, he decided he was going to blame, you could probably guess. You could probably guess what I'm going to say. Zoran Mamdani is blaming bomb threats in New York City on Election Day on President Donald Trump.
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to get that question again today, but the general approach the Trump administration has taken to try and intimidate voters, unless we heard him incorrectly, what in the world is he talking about?
He is serving up a Kamala-sized word salad, but he's using kale instead of romaine. It's just a slightly better finessed verbiage than we were given with her. This is emptiness. It means nothing. What he's doing is deflecting because he doesn't have an answer for this because he is not prepared if, God forbid, something like 9/11 happened again. Just think about that. Were you in New York on 9/11? Do you remember what happened to this city? Do you remember what happened to this country? Do you remember who was mayor and what was needed from that office? Could this person really provide that? I mean, it scares the hell out of me. I hope everyone has a plan with their kids if, God forbid, something happens.
That's a great point. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea what he's doing. If, God forbid, he becomes mayor, there could be another attack. And if there is, then he has no plan on what to do with it. He has no experience, and he's not the guy. He doesn't have the backbone that Rudy Giuliani had. Rudy Giuliani during 9/11 was a hero. That guy was on the ground. He was underneath the World Trade Centers while they were collapsing on top of them. He was everywhere at once. He was taking care of our first responders. He was making sure that emergency medical services were being handled. He was making sure that we were getting the money that we needed. He handed back that check from Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you remember that, but he was the guy. He was the man with the plan. And as a result,
golden age of America.
As a result, New York was way better off in the aftermath.
This past weekend,
of 9/11,
Americans traveling to weddings, funerals, vacations,
bring in
and meetings
Caroline Levitt
faced
here,
significant flight disruptions at airports across
who is
the
live
country
right now for the White House press briefing.
Shortages. On Sunday alone, more than 5,000 flights traveling to and from U.S. airports were delayed. Since the Democrat shutdown began, 4 times as many staffing shortages have been reported at air traffic control facilities compared to last year. TSA checkpoint wait times ballooned past 3 hours at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport, with some passengers enduring up to 5 hours in line. At nearby William P. Hobby Airport in Texas, security wait times are routinely exceeding 1 hour. More than 13,000 air traffic controllers are continuing to work without pay. Because of the Democrats, these men and women who keep our airspace safe and moving will miss a second paycheck in a row this Friday if Democrats refuse to open the government. Let me be clear to our incredible air traffic controllers across the country. President Trump and Republicans want you to get your paychecks. They want you to be paid. Please call on your Democrat senators and tell them to side with President Trump and Republicans to vote to reopen the government. Our nation's 4 largest airlines, United, Delta, American, and Southwest, have now all endorsed the Republican, nonpartisan, clean funding bill to end the government shutdown. Major unions, collectively representing tens of thousands of pilots, have also joined the airlines in calling on Democrats to pass the clean, nonpartisan CR. The travel industry is also imploring Democrats to end the shutdown and reopen the government. Nearly 500 companies and groups in the travel business, including casinos, hotels, and convention bureaus, signed a public letter warning that America's travel economy has already lost $4 billion due to this Democrat shutdown, and they have called for the Republican CR to be passed, saying Americans expect and deserve a fully functioning federal government during the peak holiday travel season. Never before have we seen private industry and union leadership so unified on the same issue, rallying behind Republicans in such a vocal way. The Democrats have completely lost the plot. They are endangering the safety, prosperity, and livelihoods of millions of Americans. It's well past time Democrats do what they did 13 times under Joe Biden and pass the clean funding bill extension. All we need are 5 Democrat senators to put country over party and vote to end this reckless shutdown.
13 times under Joe Biden sounds dirty.
Tomorrow will mark the 1-year anniversary of President Trump's historic election victory, where he won nearly 80 million votes, the popular vote, in all 7 swing states. This was the ultimate poll on November 5th. The president secured a mandate to make America great again, and he has delivered in record time. Never before have we had a president who has kept their promises like President Trump has. I'd like to go over a few of those with you. In less than 10 short months, President Trump signed the largest middle-class tax cut in history, including no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security to put more money back into the pockets of the American people. The president ended the southern border invasion of the Biden administration, made our border the most secure in history, and he is carrying out the largest mass deportation campaign of illegal aliens in our nation's history to protect our homeland, just as promised. President Trump has aggressively taken on drug cartels by declaring them as foreign terrorist organizations and even blowing up narco-terrorists who have tried to poison the American people with fentanyl and other illegal narcotics. President Trump defeated the Biden inflation crisis, and he continues to implement a pro-growth, America First economic agenda to make America affordable again, and we are seeing the results of that every day. Inflation has remained low and steady, averaging just 2.5% compared to the painful average of 5% under Biden, and we know it was historically higher than that for most of President Biden's term. Meanwhile, real private sector wages are on track to rise by almost $1,500 since President Trump took office, a significant change to the Biden years where private sector wages declined and were being wiped out by inflation. President Trump has ended the reckless war on American energy and unleashed energy dominance, with gas prices now plummeting to their lowest average levels in more than 4 years. President Trump implemented powerful tariffs to rebalance America's trade deals, protect American workers, and returning our country to be a manufacturing superpower once again. As a result, the president has secured trillions and trillions of dollars in private and foreign investments into the United States, which are creating high-paying jobs for the greatest workforce in the world. The president has restored America's place as the leader of the free world through his unwavering peace through strength foreign policy that has already ended 8 wars and counting. And the president ended illegal DEI initiatives in our federal government and is returning our country to a merit-based society based on common sense. President Trump protected opportunities for women and girls to compete safely and fairly by continuing to keep men out of women's sports. Americans have a president who works tirelessly, literally 24/7, to improve their lives and make our country better than it has ever been before. So with that, today we will open it up to questions, and we will start with our independent journalist in our new media seat, Julio Rosas. Julio, please start.
No, I love when she starts off by just going over a bunch of great things Donald Trump has done. His favorite.
He was assassinated while celebrating Dia de Muertos with his family. His assassination has sparked a lot of outrage. A lot of Mexicans are very upset. They're blaming President Claudia Sheinbaum for not taking the cartel threat seriously enough. Yesterday, she said that, once again, she's not going to allow any foreign military intervention to take on the cartels on Mexican soil, and that Mexico is not going to pursue a drug war similar to what they've done in the past. So my question is President Trump satisfied with Claudia Sheinbaum's approach to cartels? And if not, has Manso's assassination kind of opened up some new options for the United States to pursue regarding cartels?
Well, first of all, with respect to this specific news item and this alleged assassination that took place in Mexico, I know the Trump administration, we are aware of that, and of course we condemn all political violence anywhere in all forms. As for Claudia Sheinbaum and the president's relationship with her, I think he has a lot of respect for her as president of Mexico, and he also really appreciates the coordination that she has provided to the Trump administration. I can't speak for her and what she's doing internally in her country. I can speak for the president in saying we are continually pushing Mexico to do more to tackle the drug trafficking and the drug cartels within their country, and we are working with them in any way that we can. And the president has obviously used the full range of executive options in his authorities to crack down on drug trafficking at our southern border and to designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and additional actions as well.
Just one more question.
Sure.
So at the Antifa roundtable that we were at just last month, myself and the other panelists made the recommendation to the president for, speaking of foreign terrorist organizations, to have Antifa not just be domestic terrorist organization, but be designated as a foreign terrorist organization since they have cells in other countries. He mentioned to Secretary.
Oh my God! I thought that was Dick Cheney sitting next to him. I'm sorry. I was like,
that.
it's
So
the ghost of Dick Cheney.
An update on that.
What is
That process is most definitely taking place. I don't have any announcements for you on that today, but I can certainly assure you the administration is working on it, and I'll check in on it and get back to you, Julio. It's a good question. Thank you very much. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. Zohran Mamdani blamed the president for bomb threats and intimidation at polling locations.
Yeah.
He said, quote, part of the general approach of the Trump administration has taken to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country. I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I saw those comments from Mamdani. I think they are completely irresponsible, and they are based on zero evidence. And I think this is just another example of how the Democrat Party unfortunately stands for nothing. All they stand against is President Donald Trump. And I think it's quite sad to see that we have someone at the top of the ticket on an election day today saying such things about the president when he obviously had absolutely nothing to do with those threats.
And on the shutdown, Democrats have been pretty quiet about the president's push for the nuclear option, terminating the filibuster. Is there any concern around here that Democrats might actually want Republicans to get rid of the filibuster so that one day, when they're in power again, the door's already open for them to pack the Supreme Court, give statehood to D.C. and Puerto Rico, make mail-in balloting permanent, those kinds of things?
I think the president has been very realistic and strong in his position on the filibuster. He's been very vocal about it. I just spoke to him about it. He feels really strongly about this. Republicans need to play tough and they need to play smart. That's how the president feels. And we know that Democrats, if they are ever given a chance at power again in this city, they will absolutely take away the filibuster from the United States Senate. In fact, you had 49 Democrats who already voted to do this before. The only reason it did not move forward was because you had 2 Democrats who are no longer in office because they were run out of town by the far left radical base of their party.
Because of the filibuster.
President Trump is quite clear on this. He wants to see Republicans move as many good pieces of legislation for our country forward in the next 3 years of his administration as they possibly can. And the filibuster is one means to doing that.
Johnson and Thune about it. I know that they had both voiced some opposition. Have there been any conversations with them?
He has. He's made his position to them very clear, both publicly and privately. Ouija.
Can you help clear up some confusion about SNAP benefits? Because the president just posted that they will only be given out when the radical left Democrats open the government and not before. But just yesterday, the administration said it would comply with the court order to expend the full amount of SNAP contingency funds by end of business day yesterday. So did the administration distribute that money or defy that court order?
No, the administration is fully complying with the court order. I just spoke to the president about it. The recipients of these SNAP benefits need to understand it's going to take some time to receive this money because the Democrats have forced the administration into a very untenable position. We are digging into a contingency fund that is supposed to be for emergencies, catastrophes, for war. And the president does not want to have to tap into this fund in the future, and that's what he was referring to in his Truth Social post. So the Department of Agriculture, as for the latest SNAP payment in the judge's order, put out guidance to states today on how to get that money to the recipients of SNAP. But it's going to take some time. The best way to get the full amount of SNAP benefits to those beneficiaries is for Democrats to reopen the government. So to anyone who is a SNAP beneficiary at home who needs that assistance, and the president was just saying, this is for people who are truly needy, who need food, who need this assistance from the United States government. Democrats are holding it up and making it difficult for the administration to get those payments out the door. So if you are at home and you want your SNAP benefits, call the Democrats.
Call the Democrats.
To reopen the government.
Blocking that contingency fund for the future if this shutdown lingers on?
Look, the president does not want to have to continue to dip into a contingency fund that doesn't even have enough money, by the way, to fund the full program. It takes $9 billion to get the full scale of the benefits out the door. This contingency fund only has about $5 billion in it. So again, Democrats need to reopen the government so we can get these benefits out the door for people who truly need them.
Yeah, so suck it.
The president suggested that if Mamdani wins, that he would cut federal funding to New York. How much funding would be impacted? What would be impacted there?
Well, look, we won't get ahead of the election results, nor will I speak to what the president may do in the future. We'll see how tonight goes, and then I'll let him speak on it further.
Yeah, perfect.
Why did the administration exclude Democratic lawmakers last week? There was a briefing about U.S. strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats. Why were those Democrats excluded?
The administration has briefed Congress on these matters 8 separate times, and Democrats have been included in those briefings. In fact, I know that Secretary Rubio will be on Capitol Hill tomorrow to brief the Gang of 12, which includes Democrats as well. So the president's made it very clear, if senators want to understand the administration's operations against narco drug traffickers, we are very happy to speak with them about that, and we will continue to do so. But we've been incredibly transparent. As I said, there's been 8 briefings on this topic, with the 9th coming tomorrow. Rachel.
Thanks, Caroline. There's been some reporting out there about the possibility of furloughed workers not getting back pay. We know that the president signed that bill into law in his first term. Does the administration guarantee that all furloughed workers will get back pay?
This is something we are very much open to discussing with Democrats as part of the discussions about the continuing resolution to keep the government open. And it's something that Republicans are talking with Democrats about right now. I won't get ahead of those negotiations or discussions.
That's a possibility that may not happen, even though it's law.
I just said Republicans in the White House are very much open to discussing this with Democrats.
Yeah, listen to what she said. She's speaking very clearly.
Drags on about to make history as the longest government shutdown in American history. Can you talk about what the president is personally doing to try to see an end to this?
He's pushing Republicans to keep voting and to keep opening up the Senate floor to vote for the clean continuing resolution.
And to get rid of the filibuster.
The Senate Majority Leader and the House Caucus Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, here at the White House to talk about this in the very early stages, to give them a chance to come to their senses and avoid this entire government shutdown at the very beginning. And they chose not to. And I think it's been very clear to everyone in this room and to everyone across the country that the Democrats are playing partisan politics with our United States federal government.
All true.
And all Republicans have wanted to do for the last 35 days is reopen the government. That has been the president's position since day one. It is his position today on day 35. And all we need are 5 common sense Democrats with have a little bit of courage and come to the table and vote with Republicans. I saw Senator John Fetterman on television last night saying that he hopes more folks in his party will step up. And we certainly
He should get on the phone with those folks in the party and talk to them.
Caroline, the president posted on True Social that the voting underway in California is, quote, rigged. What evidence does he have of that, and what does it mean that mail-in ballots in that state are under legal and criminal review? By whom and why? And also, in this vein, does the White House still plan to issue an executive order banning mail-in voting, and what legal authority do you have to do that?
The White House is working on an executive order to strengthen our elections in this country and to ensure that there cannot be blatant fraud, as we've seen in California with their universal mail-in voting system. It's absolutely true that there's fraud in California's elections. It's just a fact. It is just a fact. They have a universal mail-in voting system, which we know is ripe for fraud. And if you want to deny that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being
What does he mean by rigged?
In the names of other people and the names of illegal aliens who shouldn't be voting in American elections. There's countless examples, and we'd be happy to provide them. As for executive action the White House is taking, yes, we are looking into that. And like any executive order, of course, any executive order the president signs is within his full executive authority and within the confines of the law. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I've got two questions I'd like to ask you about New York, but first I'd like to ask you about breaking news from the Attorney General. She revealed just about an hour ago that the Biden Justice Department seized President Trump's official first-term phone and subpoenaed his private phone records. Do you have a reaction to that? And also, do we know if they actually got those private call records?
I saw the Attorney General's post on that. For additional questions, I would refer you to the Department of Justice, but I think this is just further evidence of the egregious overreach and weaponization of government that took place under the previous White House against then former President and now President Donald J. Trump. It was a clear effort by the Biden White House and the Biden DOJ to go after the president, and this is just further evidence of that.
New York, we've seen the president's messages that he's put out, but could you describe how he's feeling as a New Yorker watching this election?
Well, the president is a New Yorker and he loves New York. It is his home. He talks about that all of the time, and he's made his thoughts on this election quite clear, I think, himself. In the back, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Over the weekend, there were reports.
I was going to you in the green, but go ahead and then you can have your question.
Thank you. Over the weekend, there were reports that President Trump was due to host President of Syria, Ahmad al-Sharia, on Monday. Do you have any preview for
Okay,
that?
but while they're talking about the government, they're talking about Syria, let me talk to you a little bit about this filibuster, because President Donald Trump has now expressed on multiple occasions a desire to terminate the filibuster, and he sees this as the ultimate time to do it. There was a question earlier about whether or not this was a play by the Democrats to try to get Donald Trump to terminate the filibuster, or get Donald Trump to encourage the Republicans in Congress to terminate the filibuster. But the fact of the matter is, he's right. The Democrats are going to do it anyway. They tried to do it already. And Kristen Sinema.
You had mentioned there that President Trump, as we know, has been speaking with Republican leaders in Congress about reopening the government. Is he involved in any other negotiations? And is he prepared to sign something if a deal does come out by the end of this week? On top of that, with SNAP benefits, does he have any authorities, or considering any authority there, to release more funds to help people who are desperately needing?
I feel like that question's been
I
asked
think I've already
and answered.
The question on SNAP. We're complying with the court's order, and we're getting that partial payment out the door as much as we can and as quickly as we can, but it's going to take some time because, again, this is a prorated payment that we're tapping into a contingency fund for. The best way to get those payments out the door is for Democrats to reopen the government. But yes, the president is in constant communication with his friends on Capitol Hill. They know, they call, he answers, he picks up the phone. He's a very transparent president in that way. And as soon as the Democrats pass the clean continuing resolution, President Trump will be here to sign it. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. President Trump has threatened to go into Nigeria guns a-blazing if Nigeria's government does not stop the killing of Christians in that country. Has the White House heard back from Nigeria's government on this threat?
As the president stated, Michael, if the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the United States will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. And may take action to wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, especially against innocent women and children. I don't have any further announcements on that for you today, but I can assure you the President of the United States is watching this situation unfold very closely, as is our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio.
Caroline, President Trump has endorsed Andrew Cuomo in New York City's mayoral race. He has not by name endorsed Winsome Sears in Virginia's gubernatorial race. Why is that?
Look, as you know from this podium, I'm quite limited in what I can say with regards to
ongoing political
elections. I think the president has spoken for himself and what he
or
wants
they don't
to
know
see
it. It's so annoying. These media people are so annoying.
Today. Lalit.
Thank you. I would like to ask you about India and U.S. citizenship.
Okay, so they're going to talk about India and U.S. citizenship for a minute, so we'll go back to the filibuster because it's something that I'm really excited about. So what happened was, hold on, where is it? Here we go. Well, listen. So, by the way, these media people are so annoying. They either ask the same question that's already been asked, or they ask a question they know she can't answer. Anyway, Donald Trump said, look, the Democrats are far more likely to win the midterms and the next presidential election if we don't do the termination of the filibuster, aka the nuclear option. Because it will be impossible for Republicans to get common sense policies done with these crazed Democrat lunatics being able to block everything by withholding their votes. For 3 years, nothing will be passed and Republicans will be blamed. Elections, including the midterms, will be rightfully brutal. If we do terminate the filibuster,
crisis ongoing. Secretary Duffy said he will now start to cancel on ground flights next week to maintain safety. Should people fly next week given this new information? And is the administration encouraging people to stop flying altogether and look at alternative transportation modes?
The administration is encouraging Democrats to reopen the federal government so this chaos and disruption to our air traffic control system in the United States of America stops. It is ridiculous that we have even gotten to this place and that the Democrats have continued to shut down the government with 35 days, our air traffic controllers continuing to work unpaid, every single major airline in our country coming out and begging the Democrats to please reopen the government. And you had a Democrat staffer who was quoted, I believe in Politico a few weeks back, saying, short of planes falling out of the sky, we are not going to reopen the government. That is a reckless and dangerous statement from someone who didn't want to put their name on that statement, but we know it came from the Democrat Party. And I think we're very clear. We want to reopen the government so we can resume travel in the safest and most efficient way possible, especially as we head into the busiest travel season of the month. We have Thanksgiving in a few weeks. And so Americans across the country need to make it very clear to their Democrat representatives that we want this government to be reopened so we can resume safe and efficient travel. Fran.
Caroline, as of last I checked, the president still had not commented on the death of former Vice President Dick Cheney. Is the White House
Oh, we finally got around.
funeral arrangements in any way? Does the president plan to speak at the funeral? Has he spoken to anyone in the Cheney family today? And does the White House have an opinion on whether or not the former vice president should lie in honor or stay in the Capitol?
I don't believe the White House is involved in that planning, or at least hasn't gotten to it yet. I know the president is aware of the former vice president's passing, and as you saw, flags have been lowered to half staff in accordance with statutory law. Jasmine.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all he gets.
How much political capital is President Trump willing to expend to get Republicans to do what he's asking? I mean, will we see him at the Hill? Will he be calling folks over here? What exactly is President Trump planning to do outside of these true socials and maybe some of these private conversations to get Republicans to fall in line?
Look, I think you'll see. I think you'll see the president continue to engage very strongly and consistently with his friends on Capitol Hill. I don't have any meetings to read out for you at this time, but I think you should stay tuned and keep your eyes on Truth Social on this matter. The president's making his position on it quite clear. And again, he is right. Republicans need to play tough. We know that this is what the Democrats will do if they are ever given the keys to power again. And he wants to pass as many good pieces of legislation as we possibly can for our country and for our people. That includes election integrity reforms. It includes additional tax policy. It includes, fixing our immigration system further in ways that only Congress can. And the president fears with a Democrat Party that is so radical and opposes everything he does and everything he says, this is the only option for Republicans to move forward. Karen.
Question. President Trump said to CBS in the 60 Minutes interview that he did not know the Binance founder, which he pardoned. What exactly did he mean for that? I know it caused
He means he does not know him personally. He means he does not have a personal relationship with this individual. And when it comes to pardons, the White House takes them with the utmost seriousness, and the president understands the responsibility that he has as president to issue clemency and issue pardons to individuals who are seeking that. That's why we have a very thorough review process here that moves with the Department of Justice and the White House counsel's office. There's a whole team of qualified lawyers who look at every single pardon request that ultimately make their way up to the President of the United States. He's the ultimate final decision maker. And he was very clear when he came into office that he was most interested in looking at pardoning individuals who were abused and used by the Biden Department of Justice and were over-prosecuted by a weaponized DOJ. And the individual you're referring to, that was certainly the case. Even the judge in his case said that the sentencing that the Biden administration was asking for was egregious and went too far. And so the president is correcting that wrong, and he has officially ended the Biden administration's war on the cryptocurrency industry, and I think that's the message he sent with this pardon.
See ya.
Karen, yes.
Back on the issue of back pay for furloughed workers, you said that the White House is open to discussing that with Democrats, but what would that discussion even be? There was a law, the president signed it in 2019. what could a discussion look like? Why is that even open for discussion?
Look, Karen, as I said, Republicans are talking about that with Democrats right now, and I don't want to get in the middle of those sensitive conversations. But as we've complied with the SNAP order, the White House, the administration is always going to comply with the laws. We're always going to comply with the ruling of judges across the country. But the Republicans are discussing this matter with Democrats right now.
Why would there even be a consideration of not paying those workers?
Tom Dempsey with News Nation. Big day in the Supreme Court tomorrow with President Trump's tariff policy facing a legal challenge. What's at stake with that case? And if the Supreme Court rules against
God
the
bless
Trump
you.
administration, what is planned
I don't know who that was,
for
but
trade policy?
I'll tell you, the White House is always preparing for Plan B. It would be imprudent of the president's advisors not to prepare for such a situation. With that said, we are 100% confident in the president and his team's legal argument in the merits of the law in this case, and we remain optimistic that the Supreme Court is going to do the right thing. The importance of this case cannot be overstated. The president must have the emergency authority to utilize tariffs. Look at what President Trump has been able to do with the leverage and the power of tariffs. He's been able to sign peace deals all over the world and end global conflicts and literally save lives. He's been able to bring in trillions of dollars of investments into our country. In fact, this year alone, we are going to cut the deficit by $600 billion, namely because of the president's effective use of tariffs. And the president strongly believes that economic security is a matter of national security, and tariffs have a lot to do with that. And this case is not just about President Trump. It's about the use of this emergency authorization for tariffs for future presidents and administrations to come, and we're confident and hopeful that the Supreme Court will do the right thing. Kristen.
Why did President Trump get an MRI during his recent visit to Wall Street?
Look, as President Trump said, he would inquire with the physicians. I'll check back on that. But as the physical itself stated, Kristen, and as you all know, because you are all witness to it, every single day the president is in optimal physical health. This was a follow-up appointment, and we provided a detailed readout of that physical. I'm happy to give it to you again, and I can inquire further.
With all due respect, an MRI is a very specific procedure. It's done on a part of the body looking for something specific, so it's not generally part of any kind of routine checkup. And in addition, President Trump has said that he wants to be transparent. He told us to ask the doctors, which we have and have not heard back. Why don't we have more information on this?
As I said, I'll check back for you. Go ahead.
Karen, can you update us on the mediation efforts this administration is leading in Sudan, trying to achieve a ceasefire there?
Okay, they're talking about the ceasefire in Sudan, so let's go back to the filibuster. So the filibuster, here's how this works. Donald Trump is not playing, people always, and I hear people say it all the time, they're like, Donald Trump is just worried about his own administration, he's worried about his own legacy. It's not true at all. Donald Trump is looking ahead, and he's thinking to himself, okay, if we get rid of the filibuster now, like today, we can open up the government, we can blame the Democrats, and we can do everything else we want to do. We won't have to worry about working with the Democrats. They will have been hobbled. They will lose all their power. And all we have to worry about is, making sure that Rand Paul doesn't just screw everything up for us. So that's basically what Donald Trump is thinking. He's thinking we can have, the next 2 years could be just incredible. And the Republicans could win the midterms because of all the amazing legislation we're able to pass. We could make sure that the country is protected. And then we could get other people into office because they'll go, wow, Republicans are amazing. Now, on the flip side of that, if he doesn't get rid of the filibuster, then the government stays shut down. And all of these other pieces of legislature could get bottled up again by future filibusters. Now, the Democrats are going to get rid of the filibuster whenever they take power again. Could be in 2 years, probably not. Could be in 4 years, could be in 6 years, could be in 10 years. It doesn't matter. When they get back to power, that's the first thing they'll do. And we know that because historically there's empirical evidence. They tried to do it before, and the only reason they didn't was because of Kristen Sinema, a moderate, or an independent really, and
historic success with the economy.
Joe Manchin, who was basically a Republican from West Virginia, who for some reason was a Democrat. And so that's why the filibuster is still in place, but it will get gone. And Donald Trump is saying, let's look 4 moves ahead. Why are we waiting for the Democrats to get rid of it, which they will? Why aren't we getting rid of it now so we can benefit, make this country better, and actually secure a longer life for Republicans rather in every aspect of the country? I feel like he's on the right track. But you still have a lot of, and the problem is you have a lot of these career politicians. You've got a lot of senators and congresspeople who are thinking, well, I don't want to have to deal with no filibuster 20 years from now when I'm 80 and still in office.
To all of you, he's answered this question directly. As for the most advanced chips, the Blackwell chip, that's not something we're interested in selling to China at this time. Annie?
Does the president think that the results of the Virginia or New Jersey gubernatorial races tomorrow...
Talking about the governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey.
...reflect a voter sentiment towards his administration?
Look, Annie, I'm not at liberty to talk about the election results. And
Right, we've already had this conversation.
I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals that may or may not happen tonight. We'll have to watch and see.
I mean, this is
and I'm
this
sure
is like
you'll hear directly from the president
they should
tomorrow.
get the rules down. The Hatch Act does not allow her to speak about any kind of
It did seem, quite different
election.
from some of his other communications about SNAP. It seemed a little bit out of the left field. I'm just wondering if he had a conversation or if there's anything you're aware of that caused him to decide to, at around 11 o'clock, to send out that message.
Look, the president is constantly well read on the news, as you know, and he is very much aware we are in day 35 of a government shutdown in which these SNAP benefits, we're pushing them out the door. USDA put out that guidance to the states this morning. The president was aware of that, and he wants to make it very clear that these benefits are in jeopardy because of the Democrats, and they should just open the government so that we can continue getting these funds out the door in an easier and more efficient way.
There's some new reporting that just dropped a few minutes ago that the Trump administration is negotiating with the makers of Ozempic to sell some weight loss drugs for $149 a month. That's according to the Wall Street Journal.
I can't hear these people.
On
The
that?
audio, by the way, is low coming out of the White House. I don't know why they do that. Like, you would think they would have louder microphones, but that's the level they have. There's nothing else. I'm already redlining these things. I can't do anything about it.
President on any future announcements, but I will echo his strong commitment to bringing down drug prices in this country. And you've heard it directly from Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Marty McCary and his entire Health and Human Services team, how committed the president is to bringing down the cost of drugs, and we're working with pharmaceutical companies to do that every day.
Very quickly, Caroline, on SNAP. I know it's been asked, and I know Weege asked it, but I
Oh my
wanted to
God.
find a point
So
on
I'm going to ask it
Talked
again.
about the president's post here, and he wrote that SNAP benefits will only be given when the radical left Democrats open up the government. I understand your previous answers, but as written, how would that not violate a court order as it's written?
I've now answered this question several times, Gabe. We are complying with the court's order. We are getting the payments out the door as quickly as we can. USDA sent the guidance to the state. The president is referring to future SNAP payments. He does not want to have to keep tapping in to an emergency fund and depleting it. In
Let
the
me
case
ask
of
you
a
this question one more time.
in this country, he wants to have those funds preserved, as they should be. And he's made it very clear Democrats should reopen the government. I have one final positive note for all of you. I told you I would keep you posted when the White House would resume public tours. Well, I'm
Yay.
pleased to announce the Office of the First Lady has reopened the doors for public tours on Tuesday, December 2nd. There will be an updated route, of course, for guests in light of the ballroom construction that's taking place, but we very much look forward to celebrating the holiday season. And the public and members of Congress and anyone who wants to come visit the First Lady's beautiful decorations is welcome to go to whitehouse.gov/visit to sign up for a tour. Thanks, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yay. All right. There we go. So that's Caroline Levitt, and she's out. And man, that was kind of, you know what? It was kind of uneventful. Same questions over and over again about SNAP benefits, but interesting, interesting take from a lot of people how they're still siding with the Democrats. It appears the media is. I mean, no shock there. When it comes to the government shutdown, and the government shutdown is, again, it's one of those things where people are now starting to really feel the pain. The Democrats knew this was going to happen. They planned for it to happen. They want it to happen, and they like that it's happening. They think they want, because this is what they don't believe that Americans know best. They feel that they know best. They feel that their job is not to represent the people who elected them to office. Their job in their twisted little minds is to teach you a lesson. If you vote for a Democrat, they're going to go to Washington, D.C. and try to teach you a lesson. They're not going to represent you. They're going to teach you that you need to be more cognizant of the illegal immigrants and the criminals. And if you have more money than them, you need to give up that money. And if you're comfortable with your job and your house and your SNAP benefits and your health insurance, then they want to make you feel uncomfortable, and they're going to do it because, well, they hate President Donald Trump. And let's be honest, they don't really like you that much either. They hate Trump. They hate the Constitution. They hate the United States of America. And as a result, they hate Americans. And if you're an American who loves the Constitution and feels okay about President Donald Trump, they especially hate you and they want to see you suffer. And they are. They are seeing you suffer. They are not, you are not in a good place. Airline's not in a good place. I'm supposed to be flying to New York this weekend. Is the flight going to be delayed? Am I going to be able to get back in time? These questions are all up in the air. And Donald Trump is saying, kill the filibuster. It's an old, dated system. The Democrats showed their cards. They tried to get rid of the filibuster years ago. And we saw what happened. Two senators that were of right mind and body stopped it. That's not going to happen again because Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin were both run out of office by the far left. The far left controls the Senate. They're controlling Chuck Schumer. They're controlling Hakeem Jeffries in the House of Representatives. The far left, these Kami Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders types, are controlling the entire Democrat Party. And as a result, no Democrats are coming forward to say, this is ridiculous, this is stupid, let's open up the government. So when you look forward into the future, which Donald Trump is doing, he's saying, okay, let's play this out. He's not making these quick judgments. He's saying, let's play this out. If we get rid of the filibuster right now, like this week, if we can the filibuster, what happens? We can immediately open up the government and the Democrats can't say a gosh darn thing about it. They've lost their leverage. The one thing the Democrats say is they say, we have one piece of leverage. We've got one. In fact, Sean Duffy talked about it yesterday.
Right, they're willing to hurt air travelers, whether they're going to a funeral, they're going to see family members. Pretty soon we're going to have kids coming home from college for Thanksgiving break. They're willing to endanger poor people who can't get food stamps. They're willing to risk subsidies in regard to health insurance. They don't care who they hurt. They care about power. By the way, we had an election a little less than a year ago, and Donald Trump crushed it. He won the popular vote. He won the 7 swing states. Democrats lost. And so if you want to pass legislation, you can introduce it, you can debate it, but government shutdowns trying to garner leverage is not the way that you do it. Debate it, vote on it, and then come back and try to win elections.
Yeah, they can't do that, though. They know that. They know that. What Sean Duffy said, the Democrats know, they go, we can't win elections, so the only leverage we have is to shut down the government. And they're loving every minute of this. We know that. So if Donald Trump gets the Senate to kill the filibuster, then the Democrats lose their leverage. Then they have nothing. They don't have the White House. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the House of Representatives. They don't have the Supreme Court. And they don't have the leverage of the government shutdown. They are powerless. Isn't that what we want? A Democrat Party that's powerless? Isn't that what we want? People who can't stand in the way of American greatness, of making America great again? Don't we want these people hobbled and unable to do any more damage to this country that we love? Haven't they done enough? Killing the filibuster destroys the Democrat Party. Why would we not want to do that? That's literally what I've been waiting for my entire life. Ever since I learned what a Democrat was, I was like, isn't there a way to get rid of these people? The filibuster is it. And if you kill the filibuster now, all of a sudden the Democrats are powerless. The government opens back up. And for the next 3 years, it's been 1 year. Donald Trump has been in office for 1 year. We've got 3 years. We can pass legislation like that. Anything good, boom. Anything we want to repeal, it's done. All the promises Donald Trump made about everything, boom, boom, boom. Executive orders, they're going to be codified into law. If you've got a judge that you want to make sure you get on the bench, boom, they're going to get approved just like this. It's going to be a whirlwind. It's the best thing, in my humble opinion, as I think about it more and more. And I'm thinking out loud here. I didn't really give it this much thought until moments ago, but I opened my mouth and I started talking. And in order to do that, I have to think. And now I'm thinking this is actually a pretty good, decent deal. So what happens is you kill the filibuster. The Democrats are powerless. The government opens back up. And for the next 3 years, Republicans rule. And in 2028, if the government remains open, if all these great policies come into play, if the economy is booming, if everybody's safe again, if the border is secure, if we have a strong military, if there's no more taxes, if all of these things President Donald Trump promised come true, then there's no way that the Democrats are going to get elected into power again. Why? Because everyone's going to turn around and go, this is great. This country is great again. Let's vote for J.D. Vance. Let's vote for some more Republicans in Congress and get out some more of the Democrats. Look what's happening in New Jersey and Virginia. You have 2 races in New Jersey and Virginia, which are close. Closer than they should be in New Jersey. Nobody ever thought New Jersey would go red again. Not since Chris Christie muffed it up. I mean, it is Donald Trump thinking ahead. And then let's say, what is it, 2020, what are we in, 2025? So let's say, all right, in 2 years, there's no way the Democrats are going to win the Senate back. In 4 years, I still think, I'd have to look at the numbers, but I still think that's, I mean, in an election year with J.D. Vance on the ticket and Marco Rubio, probably there's going to be a lot of money going to elect Republicans. So I would say, no, they'll hold the Senate as well in 2028. 2030, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? That's way far out. There's no way to predict. But let's just say in 6 years, the Democrats take back the Senate. You know what happens? They're going to get rid of the filibuster anyway on day one. Donald Trump's right. Why wait? What are we waiting for? Why are we giving all the power to the people who can't be trusted with power? Why are we giving all the power to the people who say this shutdown gets better for us every single day? President Donald Trump said it himself. The Democrats are far more likely to win the midterms and the next presidential election if we don't terminate the filibuster. If this isn't just a matter of opening up the government anymore, this isn't just a matter of getting legislation passed that's good for America. This is a matter of controlling power. And if we don't nuke the filibuster, the Democrats are more likely to win next time. Why? Because people are going to look around and go, well, those Republicans had all this time. The Republicans had they had the White House, they had the Senate, they had the House of Representatives. They couldn't get anything done. You know why? Because the Democrats used the filibuster. It will be impossible for Republicans to get common sense policies done with these crazed Democrat lunatics being able to block everything by withholding their votes. For 3 years, nothing will be passed, and Republicans will be blamed. He's right about that. The party in power will be blamed for the inefficiency of the 3 years between now and the end of the term. Elections, including the midterms, will be rightfully brutal. If we do terminate the filibuster, we will get everything approved like no Congress in history has before. We will have fair, free, and safe elections. No men in women's sports or transgender for everybody, strong borders, major tax and energy cuts, and we will secure our Second Amendment, which the Democrats will also terminate immediately. If we don't do it, they are far more likely to do well in the upcoming elections, which would mean a packed Supreme Court, 2 more states, and 4 more Democrat senators. Remember, Republicans, they are going to end the filibuster as soon as they get the chance. We know this because they already tried, and the only 2 people who didn't go along with it are now out of office. In fact, they will lose big and for a very long time. Terminate the filibuster now, end the ridiculous shutdown immediately, and then, most importantly, pass every wonderful Republican policy that we have dreamt of for years but never gotten. We will be the party that cannot be beaten, the smart party. Donald Trump is not just pulling stuff out of his booty, okay? Donald Trump he's got advisors, he has lawyers, they think far ahead, they think in advance, they game it out. You don't think to me, or don't not think. What am I even trying to say? I have no idea. I'm so excited. They have an AI program. I guarantee that Elon Musk bought them or built them, and they put every decision into it. If we do this, what happens? And AI games it out for like 25, 30, 40, even maybe 100 years. And AI says, and it kicks back, get rid of the filibuster now. In fact, now that I bring it up, let's do this. Tell me what would happen over the next 10 years if, let me try again. Tell me what would happen over the next 25 years if the Republicans used the nuclear option and got rid of the filibuster this week to end the government shutdown. Let's see what we're going to just ask AI because it's there for us. Tell us what would happen over the next 25 years if the Republicans used the nuclear option and got rid of the filibuster this week to end the government shutdown. It's thinking about stuff. It's analyzing filibuster removal and shutdown scenarios. This is like War Games. You remember War Games with Matthew Broderick and Dabney Coleman? That was such a great movie. That was such a great movie where they were like, oh, here we go. Here's a clear scenario-based look at what the next 25 years could look like if Senate Republicans used the nuclear option this week to scrap the filibuster for funding bills and end the shutdown. First, what the move means. Well, we know what it means. The next 3 to 6 months, shutdown ends quickly. A GOP majority could pass a continuing resolution and or full-year appropriations over unified Democratic opposition. Markets breathe, base voters on both sides get energized, expect Democratic vows to restore or counter the rule change the next time they have 51 votes. Senate dynamic shift. Individual senators lose leverage tied to 60-vote demands. The chamber behaves more like the House on funding. Committee chairs gain relative power. The minority leans on messaging and holds. In 1 to 2 years, more one-party funding. The majority writes spending bills that reflect its priorities. Fewer bipartisan omnibus deals. Sounds amazing. Reconciliation becomes less central for spending because you no longer need to squeeze policy into bird-compliant boxes. Also true. Escalation pressure. Once the filibuster is carved out of appropriations, future majorities are likelier to carve out more. Immigration, voting rules, just this once, citing shutdown chaos as justification, exactly the slippery slope critics warned about. 3 to 10 years. Pendulum legislation. As control flips, expect sharper swings in domestic policy tied to spending riders, border enforcement, energy permitting versus restrictions, agency rulemaking. Without a 60-vote break, big shifts can pass and be reversed faster. 10 to 25 years. Red steamroller. Long run, if the Republicans hold frequent trifectas, long run funding embeds conservative priorities, tighter discretionary caps, energy build out, agency constraints, durable shifts in border DOJ posture. Blue rebound and entrenchment if Democrats gain a future trifecta. With the precedent set, Democrats could pass large funding-based policy changes within 51 votes. Prominent opponents of ending the filibuster have long warned that once it goes, a majority could pursue moves like federal voting changes or state admissions that reshape the map. So it looks like 10 to 25 years down the road, we may, according to ChatGPT, by the way, see some legitimate changes that some people have concerns with. But the short-term red wave of policy could inspire future Americans to continue to keep Republicans in power because of everything they've been able to get done because the filibuster has been removed. I think it's, you know what? I think it's genius. I think it's amazing. I'm like the more I talk about it, the more and more I like it. The more I talk about it, the more and more I like it. Now we're watching, of course, all of the elections tonight. And the elections tonight will have some kind of position as to what happens in the New York race. We have Zoran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams, who I think pulled out of the race. I don't know why. I guess he's still on the ballot. New Jersey gubernatorial election. You've got Mickey Sherrill and Jack Ciattarelli, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, and Winsome Sears in Virginia as well, running for governor of that state. Now, in New York, and that's really one of the big one that we're watching. In New York, Donald Trump has also weighed in, and he's threatened in New York with a lack of funding. He wrote, if communist candidate Zoran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it is highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home because of the fact that as a communist, this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send, as president, good money after bad. It is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong conviction that New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. I would much rather see a Democrat who has a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He was nothing as an assemblyman, ranked at the bottom of the class, and as mayor of potentially, again, the greatest city in the world, he has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must all also remember this. This is where it gets good. A vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. So President Donald Trump goes on Truth Social to say, if Mamdani wins, I'm going to cut off funding to New York. And if you're a Republican in New York City, do not throw away your vote on Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa must not win. Vote for Andrew Cuomo. Vote for Andrew Cuomo. Do what needs to be done. Suck it up, Buttercup. Because a vote for Curtis Sliwa is a vote for Zohran Mamdani, and that would be a vote to ruin one of the greatest cities ever, New York City. It would be detrimental to the entire United States of America. Really, I'm telling you, man, a fascinating day. A really, really fascinating day. Not only did Dick Cheney pass away, God rest his soul, R.I.P. D-I-C-K, but not only do we have Donald Trump now supporting Andrew Cuomo in the mayoral election, but we also had Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View. And Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View was welcomed with like open arms.
Here's something you all may not know about me. I think a lot of people on the left are learning that when I ran for Congress in 2020, I ran criticizing Republicans and Democrats equally. Because I come from a working class family, ran a construction company for over 20 years, and I feel like the government has failed all of us. And it purely disgusts me. It really does. And I represent a district that is rural, manufacturing district, blue collar workers, and people have been crushed by decades of failure in Washington, D.C. And so I have no problem pointing fingers at everyone. And the worst thing that I just can't get over is we're not working right now. And I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House. And we should be at work. All the people sitting in this audience, they go to work every day. People at home watching this show, they go to work every day. Ladies, you go to work every day. The people on your set, and it is an embarrassment to me that we're not in session.
And getting paid.
I'm not taking a paycheck.
Good for you. Exactly.
I'm not taking a paycheck.
Exactly. Good for you. I think you're one of the only ones. Well,
Did you ever think, by the way, did you ever think you would see the day when Marjorie Taylor Greene gets applause on The View? I mean, what is happening in this world? Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, look at that, Eric Matheny, just a few years ago, these ladies on The View were mocking her and calling her a racist. Listen to
They
this.
say that you're slamming Republicans too much. Well, you're taking my job. You're slamming Republicans a lot on topics like health care, the Epstein files. We know he's still your favorite president. I mean, Truman is mine. I dated him.
But I did not date Donald Trump. But I do love him.
You do love him, yeah.
Yes, I did.
All right, well, whatever. So when was the last time you spoke to him? And what's with the tension between the two of you? You know, you may love him, but he may not love you back right now.
Well, that's okay. I mean, Donald Trump, he usually yells at everybody, so we're all used to it. But he's the president of the United States, and here's something you all may not know about.
Okay, and that goes in the clip we just played. This is crazy. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. They're getting along with each other. Why? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene is on the side of The View, or a lot of the hosts of The View, on many topics. That's why they had her on. That's why she's there. And it is shocking to me to see just how easily they play into her hands when they have somebody that they believe is on their same side. It's a crazy day. I'm telling you, it's just a wild and bizarre day. I never thought I would see the ladies of The View so excited to see Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I never thought I would see Marjorie Taylor Greene treated as nicely as she was on The View today. Really, I should probably, I don't know. I can't handle, I'll be honest with you, I can't handle anymore. You know what I can handle? A good poker tournament. The Ho Ho Hold'em charity poker tournament to benefit Kay's Kids is coming up December the 4th. That's a month from today, 1 month from today. And if you've never been to the Ho Ho Hold'em charity poker tournament, this is the year you should come to the Ho Ho Hold'em charity poker tournament. Go to www.kayskids.com. There's a link in the show notes. www.kayskids.com and grab your tickets before they're sold out. We have We have different tiers of tickets. We have the general admission ticket, which gets you a ticket to the tournament, gets you free food and drinks, drink tickets, and a beautiful buffet. All of this, by the way, being held at Best Bet on Monument Road in Jacksonville, Florida, where we've been holding this tournament for years. The premier poker room in all of Florida, probably all of the East Coast. Well-run, clean, smoke-free environment, delicious food, amazing bartenders and waitresses and staff. And of course, this tournament is live streamed. If you're a member of our VIK table, if you get a VIK ticket, then you get to join us at the premier VIK table, live streamed throughout the entire world. You get to sit there the entire night with me and with our other special guests. You get a free VIK swag bag with special swag reserved for our VIK members only. And if you're a very important Catriot, you get extra drink tickets because, we take care of our VIKs. You can save money by getting an entire table. And if you just want to come watch, we have spectator tickets too. Go to www.kskids.com. Get your tickets and get them fast before they're all sold out. December the 4th, and it's a Thursday night at Best Bet, Monument Road in Jacksonville. Get your tickets and join us for our favorite celebration every year, the Ho Ho Hold'em Charity Poker Tournament. It is really, like I said, it is really a fantastic event, and it is an amazing sight to see. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sitting through the press conference, or the press briefing. And we've got a big election tonight. We've got a lot to watch for, and tomorrow we're going to know what direction a lot of our major cities and states are going in. We're going to know if there's redistricting in California. We're going to know if the radical Muslim communist extremists have taken over New York City. We're going to know what New Jersey and Virginia are going to look like moving into the future, and maybe the government will open back up, or maybe the Senate will nuke the filibuster finally. You never can tell. Like I said, crazy times that we live in. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and make sure that you tell YouTube and Rumble and all those places, I love this program and I want more of it. I love Marquez Saves the Republic. I want it every single day, because every single day we're going to bring you the information, the entertainment, the energy, the enthusiasm. We're going to bring you the inspiration that you need so you can continue to fight, and save the Republic. We are going to have a brief Catriot Club meeting here in just a few minutes. If you would like to join us for the Catriot Club meeting, go to Catriots.com and become a member of the Catriot Club. I had to dip out early yesterday, so we're going to go back and we're going to pick up exactly where we left off yesterday. Direct access to me, Q&A, all kinds of fun stuff. Catriots.com. We're going to do that here in 5 minutes.